Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. Joining me as ever is Patrick Van Straten. For the first time in a while, it's Zach Jalab, fresh from interviewing his hero, Tammy Abraham, on Football Daily. How was he, Zach?
Lovely. Massive.
Yeah,
he's tall.
Huge.
It's the first time, in fact, to look up at someone in a while.
Yeah, even with your throws, way
ridiculous.
But yeah, that's coming out on Football Daily very soon. Keep your peepers peeled for that one. But question that we are dealing with today comes from Tamish Bahal, who has asked, any surprise eliminations from the group stages in the Champions League this season? But before we get into that, just a quick reminder to subscribe to Eurofootball Daily and hit that notification bell to never miss a video. But we're actually not going to talk about surprise dropping out of the groups. What we're actually going to talk about is the most disappointing team so far. Because the sides we're mentioning definitely, well, they might well drop out of their groups, but they're definitely not the worst sides in the Champions League. They've just been slightly underwhelming. And Pat, I believe we're beginning with Real Madrid.
Yeah, I don't think anybody thinks that Real Madrid are remotely contenders for the Champions League. I think they're just about contenders for La Liga, but frankly, I think they're the third best team in that league. And they've had some real trouble at the start of the season. I mean, they managed to scrape a 1-0 away victory at Galatasaray, but they're 5 points behind PSG, and that looks fair. Like, they're in the mass with, what is it, Gala, and which Belgian team is it? Club Brugge? I can never remember whether it's Club Brugge or their Cercle Brugge as well. But yeah, I don't know. They've just the midfield balance is still really off. I think they've managed to stop the bleeding to a certain extent by bringing in Valverde to play alongside Casemiro and then going for one of Kroos or Modric. But when they've played Kroos or Modric together, which has happened a couple of times this season, they have been appalling because they just don't have any defensive presence in midfield. I mean, Modric is not as mobile as he used to be. Kroos has never been mobile. A lot has been made of Kroos's creative numbers this season, but it's just set pieces. That's pretty much all it is. But that is basically all it is, and there are a lot of guys at that club who could take set pieces, and you're just seeing a club where there's been no real joined-up thinking in how they've built that squad. I mean, is Jovic as good right now at enabling the other forwards in Real Madrid's front line as Benzema? Probably not. But do I think the attack might be better overall if you're starting to give minutes to Jovic and basically accepting that you're not going to win the Champions League this season, and the best thing for your future is to develop him into a star? Like, that's what they need to be doing. Hazard obviously has had his struggles so far. We assume he's going to play his way back into form.
Missed a big chance the other night as well.
Yeah, but I mean, missing a big chance worries me less than when he's not getting them.
And he's always done that as well. Even at Chelsea, he's always, like, there's been games when he's missed big chances. So I don't think that's too much of a surprise.
Because as a neutral, you think of him as a guy who pretty much finishes everything that comes his way.
But no, 100%. Last year, there were times when he'd be like through on goal and he'd just hit it either wide or he's like put it straight at the keeper. There's many times when he's done that. Yeah. But I kind of feel Real Madrid are more in a period now where, as you kind of said, no one's expecting them to win the Champions League, and it's more of a rebuild, right? Like, now they've got to kind of sit. Zidane has a tough job in his hands where he does have to sit there and go, what do I do now? I don't have two of the best. Like, they are very good, Kroos and Modric, but as you said, like, they can't both be playing together in the same way. Do you think they should have maybe kept Dani Ceballos?
Well, I think they made a rod for their back, and not just Ceballos, but they sold Kovacic permanently, they sold Marcus Llorente. These were players that were going into the peak of their careers, and they could have based their midfield around for years to come, and I think they would have been perfectly good at Real Madrid.
Well, Ceballos could still go back. I mean,
he could.
But I don't know. It just feels, though, you say they're in a rebuilding phase, but I think when you go and spend 100 million on 28-year-old Eden Hazard, you've kind of got to go for trophies now. How long is he going to have the top-end speed and the dribbling ability he has? He's always going to be a good creator and a good passer because he's excellent at those things, and those things don't tend to decline with age. But he's played a lot of football by the age of 28, and normally you do see players start to slow down at this point. And if he loses a half step, that ability to just kind of get separation from a defender, that will have an effect. Plus, I think that it's going to be hard for them to get rid of Bale before his contract ends. James has come back, and James has been good when he's played, but Isco is still on the sidelines. Like, it's still a really weirdly constructed squad, and I don't know. I think they need to go out and buy 2 central midfielders at least over the next couple of windows, and have a serious think about what kind of team they're going to be going forward. And I think that probably also entails thinking about who comes after Zidane.
Well, do you not think Florentino Perez is going to do what he always does and just spend so much money on 2? Like, if Pogba's not at Real Madrid next year, I'll be so surprised.
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't know whether they've got the. Do they have the finances to? I think it would be at least 160 million. And I'd be very surprised if they made that deal.
And it makes no sense.
And United really don't want to sell him as well. It's going to be really difficult to get him out of Man United, I think, unless he goes on strike, which potentially could
But what
happen,
he's
isn't
good at as well is stuff they already have in the team. Like Pogba used to be a great all-round midfielder, but he's not really that anymore. Like, what he does now is amazing distribution and creativity from deep, right? He hasn't really done a lot of defending since he's been at Old Trafford. And maybe he could turn back into that player, but it seems unlikely at this stage. And you think, well, you have got James, you have got Isco, you have got really creative fullbacks. You've got Eden Hazard.
But they're players like... They have looked at Kante before.
Get him,
they've
that'd
looked
be
at,
amazing.
But I just felt like Kante would never move. That's also, I think, like the optimist in me.
Yeah, I mean, God knows how much money you'd have to spend.
Yeah.
And again, he's also approaching a time in his career where you think he'll start to slow down. They need to be thinking, when they went and got Kovacic, like that was a really good gamble on a young player who could do a bit of everything. And then they obviously decided they didn't want to have him, like swapped him around in position, like didn't really allow him to play the role he wanted to because they had Modric there. Similarly with Ceballos, like that was a good gamble, 15 million euros. Like that's exactly the sort of move you should be making when you've got a top level midfield. Get those guys in and hope they can develop. And clearly they would be helpful. I mean, now there are rumours of Fabian Ruiz. I think that would make an awful lot of sense because that would give them some defensive solidity while maintaining creativity in the midfield.
Awesome.
But they need a couple of guys, like because even Eriksen is approaching the tail end of his career, and he's going to continue to be a great creator. But again, this is not the problem they need to solve. The problem they need to solve is just legs in the midfield.
Yeah, I think there are reasons to be cheerful. I'm not completely ruling them out of a title push in the league. I just don't think they're there in the Champions League. I mean, Vinicius Jr. is still looking very sharp. Rodrigo started pretty well to his Real Madrid career. Eden Hazard's only going to get better because realistically, for what he was brought in for, he can't realistically get any worse. Yeah. But they just don't look quite ready to challenge for the Champions League. I think they didn't have a shot on target against PSG, only top-level opposition. I mean, fair enough struggling against PSG, but it was an understrength PSG not playing Neymar, Cavani or Mbappe. And then against Club Brugge, they conceded 2 goals in the first half to, I think it was called Emmanuel Dennis or something completely random. That was the 3rd consecutive home game in a row they conceded 2 by half-time. They struggled in the group last year against CSKA Moscow. It's not just new this season. Like, they haven't actually played well in the Champions League since their last triumph and got completely dismantled by Ajax at the Bernabeu last year as well. So there's a lot of issues at Real Madrid. I think they're just frighteningly inconsistent, a bit like Barcelona at the start of this season. Haven't really found their best 11. Eder Militao's come in and out consistently. He's looked very good on occasion, but very confused on occasion. And you still don't back Zidane to sort out the defensive issues. But Zach, we need to talk about another team in Borussia Dortmund because they did not have a good result this week against Inter Milan.
No, they didn't. However, that being said, their group is pretty tough. Slavia Prague is the one that you would assume would finish bottom, then Borussia Dortmund, Barcelona and Inter Milan. As you said, they did lose 2-0 to Inter Milan. But also a very good Inter Milan as well. Like, Conte has rejuvenated that side incredibly and got them playing fantastic football. I also think Borussia Dortmund are a team now that you wouldn't necessarily think they will be going too far in the Champions League anyway. They've still got very young, very, very young players in their squad. I think the most experienced ones have to be probably Hummels and
Marco
Rose and Witsel, I guess, now, playing in centre mid. And they've also had injuries as well. They've got no Paco Alcacer, they've also got no
Marco
Reus as well. So they're having to play Julian Brandt up front. So I think it's maybe a little bit harsh to kind of say they've been underwhelming when they've kind of been dealt maybe bad cards so far this campaign in the Champions League. However, they do have players that you do think can be quite exciting in the European competition, like Torgan Hazard. We thought would do really, really well, and I think against Inter Milan he completed like 1 dribble, didn't have a shot, made 0 key passes. So on that side of things, they've been a bit more of like a damp squid. Squid or squib?
Squid.
Yeah, let's get that one right.
Damp squid.
I like damp squid.
For God's sake. But yeah, no, I think it's a bit harsh to kind of say they've been underwhelming when they're against very good sides in Inter Milan. And also, even though, as we said earlier, Barcelona haven't been great, they're always okay. Yeah. And especially when they have someone like Messi.
They were really unlucky not to win that game against Barcelona at home as well.
But if you don't win that game, you're then really up against it. Like, if they'd got the points in that game, we'd be talking about Dortmund completely differently. But now they've got to beat what happened in their Slavia Prague game?
They won 2-0.
So they won against Slavia Prague.
They've got 3 points.
They've got to beat Slavia again. They've got to beat Inter at home, and they may still need to go and get a point at the Camp Nou, and that's quite a tough ask.
Yeah, I think they can beat Inter at home though. But Inter, they're a really good side now under Conte.
They look
I think they've only
fantastic,
lost
man.
2 games this year to Juventus and Barcelona, 2 top opposition. They've won pretty much every other game in Serie A at least. And he's just got Lautaro Martinez in particular playing exceptionally well.
Brozovic is
And
incredible.
Brozovic,
at the moment.
and Sensi and Barella are either side. They're a really fun side to watch now, Inter Milan, and very solid defensively, as you'd expect from a Conte side. But Dortmund have now failed to score in 7 of their last 8 Champions League games, I saw, which isn't good, rolling back to last year when they got knocked out by Spurs, I think. And yeah, that's quite bleak for Lucien Favre. But as you say, Paco Alcacer's come back, Marco Reus come back, Jadon Sancho's looked good on occasion.
Royce.
Royce.
He's saying Marco Rose.
Oh, I don't mean that, Royce. And Axel Witsel, who deserves a mention for his form this year, just continues to just defy all doubters, really. I think he's been absolutely awesome. And Jadon Sancho's only going to get better. I think he's only the 4th Englishman to play 10 Champions League games as a teenager.
With like Walcott is
Niche
in
stats, there you go. But yeah, Inter Milan could be a potential dark horse for the competition if we're talking dark horses. But the final team we probably need to talk about is Lyon. They were drawn in a relatively easy compared to that group at least, with RB Leipzig, Benfica and Zenit St. Petersburg. But they look like they really won't qualify. So their results so far, they drew 1-1 at home to Zenit. They won 2-0 away at Leipzig, but then they lost 2-1 away at Benfica on Wednesday. Was it Tuesday? I think it was Wednesday, actually. And Anthony Lopez, their goalkeeper. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah, it's an absolute mess.
Not good. Throws it straight to Pizzi, was it? And he finished from about 40 yards. But it was just a really, just get that draw away
it's
from
a
home in the
goalkeeper
last
area.
minute. It's just
one
horrible.
man.
And obviously they've gone through a bit of a change in the dugout. They gave Silvino 11 games. What was the point in that? What can a new manager do in his first job in 11 games? Maybe he was never up to it, but don't appoint him in the first place. They brought in Rudy Garcia, who had a fine time at Marseille. I think it was 5th, 4th and 5th that he finished, but he won about 44% of his games. But I don't think Marseille is an easy team to manage either. I don't think anyone's bar Bielsa in the last 4 managers has won over 50% of their games. It's a bit of a general malaise at Marseille. But anyway, he's now at Lyon, and Depay's playing very well. His stats look excellent. 3 goals in 3 games, including a goal against Zenit on Wednesday. Aouar's still playing very well, but they're really struggling in League One. I don't know whether you guys have seen the table. They're 17th.
Yeah.
And expected goals...
It's like a Monaco situation.
Well, it seems like it, but expected goals and expected goals against suggest they should be more like 5th or 6th. So it's not a complete catastrophe. But they've just really struggled to score goals. Moussa Dembele went off like a rocket, hasn't scored in a while. Bertrand Traore hasn't really chipped in as much as you'd hope. So there's a few issues there. But you guys, of these 3 teams, I mean, Lyon's got a tough ask to qualify. Dortmund have a tough ask to qualify. We expect Real Madrid to go through. But if you had to put your money on who do you think would go furthest out of these 3 teams, who do you reckon?
Oh, God. I actually think Dortmund. I think Real Madrid are over 2 legs are easy to beat, especially with their squad at the moment. Whereas I think with Dortmund, no matter what's happening, you could be 2-0 up, 3-0 up, and they could have a very good chance of coming back, especially if they have their full squad there.
Dangerous at home.
Yeah, I just think of Real Madrid, the way like Ajax dismantled them and other teams of less stature to Ajax so far this season have dismantled them, it causes a lot of worry and a lot of people like. If you draw Real Madrid now in, say, the round of 16 or whatever it is, I don't think you're as worried as you would have been 3 years ago. Nowhere near.
Fair. Pat, who do you reckon?
Well, I don't think Dortmund are going to get out of the group, nor will Lyon.
Could be some good sides in Europa.
So it's going to be Real Madrid purely by dint of getting out of the group.
By default. Yeah, unless Lyon turn their results around relatively soon. Leipzig have had a topsy-turvy time at the start of their Champions League campaign as well. Although did get that win against Zenit in the end with that fantastic goal from Marcel Sabitzer. But yeah, we're talking about depressing, disappointing teams in the Champions League. Has anyone changed their thoughts on who might win? Who have you been particularly impressed with, Zach?
Sticking it with Chelsea, mate. Sticking
Really?
with Chelsea. Nah, maybe not
Chelsea, because it was. We streamed it live on EFD.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily the best game, but what a result for you guys!
Oh no, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I said before, like, if we could go there and get a draw, that'd be amazing. It's like an Ajax team that I think hadn't lost at home in like 5 years, and it wasn't the most like interesting game, but it was a very fast game. And I think if you weren't a fan of either side, you were probably a little bit bored. But there was just like. it's just one of those moments that like VAR helped us out, and luckily
you finished exceptionally well as well.
Yeah, we finished well. I mean, Batshuayi came on, had more shots than anyone on the pitch, and then Pulisic came on and also killed it as well. Which I actually reckon will start as well for Burnley this weekend.
Do you reckon?
I think so.
Do you think it's time for a run of games for Pulisic?
I think he deserves to start against Burnley. I think William's been very good this season, so is Callum Hudson-Odoi, but maybe you don't want to rush Callum Hudson-Odoi back, so, like play 4 games in a row when he's returning from injury. Apart from Chelsea, Salzburg have looked ridiculous. Even if they don't make it out of their group, they might win the Europa League.
100%.
Because they look stupidly
Some
good.
great goals in that game as well. Mertens and Insigne as well.
Yeah.
Pat, obviously you were on the stream on Wednesday watching the Chelsea game, but did you caught Man City on Tuesday against Atalanta?
Yeah, I mean,
what did you make of that game?
To be honest, man, I haven't really changed my opinion. I think the 3 best teams in the competition, 3 best teams in the world right now are Man City, Liverpool and PSG. I think it's quite hard to add anybody else to that. Bayern looked like they might be in that category, but now with some injuries, they're going to have to rejig the midfield, which is working really well. And I think moving Kimmich back to right back from central midfield is going to be a really big loss for them, because it's going to be a defensive downgrade in the middle of the park. They don't really have somebody who can do that role as well. After that, I don't know. I mean, you get into dark horse territory. Like Barcelona could be really good just because they've got Messi. They've got great players. But Barcelona at the moment look like an aging team. You know, sometimes your old players turn up and play really well. You know, Busquets, Alba, Suarez, Griezmann, Messi turn up and play like those guys. And other times they play like guys who are in their 30s. And that is what happens like when you've got people like that. So I don't know. I find it extremely hard to look beyond those top 3. But they've all got flaws as well. Like PSG, Man City and Liverpool are all... Not PSG, but Liverpool and Man City are worse than they were last season, comfortably worse. I
think it makes the Champions League very exciting. Maybe not as high quality as we've seen in previous years, but I think it should be a fascinating campaign.
Definitely.
Barcelona, Slavia Prague on Wednesday, they just concede a lot of good opportunities now. Like, Piqué and Longley have not even had a good week. I thought they even looked quite shaky in that victory over Eibar as well. You can really get at the centre of Barcelona now. I don't know whether it's a lack of protection from Busquets or Piqué and Longley just not playing particularly well in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, Barcelona fans, let us know what you guys think about your defensive woes in the comments below. And let us know who you guys think are going to win the Champions League and who's going to be the biggest disappointment in the comments below. Let's move on to our big match preview. Big match preview this weekend. We had a few options. We could have talked about Schalke versus Borussia Dortmund, the Ruhr derby, but we talked about Borussia Dortmund versus Borussia Mönchengladbach last week. We could have talked about Atletico Madrid versus Athletic Bilbao. That should be a fascinating game. Or we could have talked about Roma AC Milan, but it only seems right to talk about the big clash in Lyon this weekend. PSG versus Marseille, which takes place on Sunday night, I should say, at 8 p.m. Zach, PSG are looking like they're going to stroll Ligue 1 once again.
Yeah, unsurprisingly. They are 5 points ahead, and it's just looking ridiculous. I mean, Kylian Mbappe is even better. It gets better and better every single season, and like, for once, PSG during the summer actually made some really good signings.
Astute, clever signings.
Exactly. Idrissa Gueye has been killing it for them in central midfield, and Herrera's also been doing really, really well for them as well. And Angel Di Maria, surprisingly, I thought maybe this would be the season where finally kind of like starts to get on a bit now. He's like getting into his 30s now. However, he's just proving his doubters wrong yet again. He's completed more dribbles than he's ever done in his career before. Seems like he's enjoying himself even more. And he's getting goals and assists left, right and centre. He's got 2 braces so far this season as well, which is really good. And also, Icardi
he's coming to the party.
Been really, really good. So Cavani's been injured. And what a better replacement than Mauro Icardi. I think PSG, honestly, for once have done some really, really savvy business. Even bringing in Diallo, even Navas in goal. It's just smart business, which will... I think in the long run, they'll see the long-term effects and will probably, even we've spoken about Melo in the Champions League, they're obviously going to win Ligue 1, but this season could be the year as well when they finally complete their dreams and win the CL too. Yeah,
it's crazy to think that they're this far ahead despite having lost 2 games. They lost to Rennes and I think they lost to Stade de Reims as well. I think it was them. And to be this far clear with a goal difference of plus 16, no one else has a goal difference better than 5. Look like they're going to walk it again. There are only a couple of issues. Draxler hasn't played very much. It looks like he might be sold in January. Back time too. He needs to get his career back on track. Thilo Kehra's out with a long-term injury.
Yeah.
But they just got options all over the park, and their fullbacks are playing better than ever before this year as well. Tuchel's really worked his magic with that squad, and they look very complete. But Pat, their opposition this weekend, Marseille, quite a sort of so-so start under AVB. Not electric, but done better than expected, maybe.
Yeah, because nobody was terribly excited. Obviously, they've had their financial difficulties over the last couple of years. Florian Thauvin is out till January with a knee injury, which is a little bit of a worry for them. And also, AVB's reputation has kind of taken a bunch of hits over the years. But generally speaking, he's always been a pretty decent coach. Right now, they don't look spectacular. I think they're in fourth, but you would expect them to be a little bit lower based on the quality of their actual attack and defence. Like, the defence is 11th best in Ligue 1, which is weird for an AVB side. Like, normally they've been good at kind of grinding out results against the weaker sides. But they do have 4 wins, 4 draws, 2 losses, which is pretty healthy. They've been quite reliant on a new signing from the summer, Dario Benedetto, who came in from Boca Juniors. He's got 5 goals so far, but he's suspended for this match, so that's a concern. And he's still kind of their most productive forward with, I think, 0.46 expected goals and assists per 90, which is not great. And 0.44 for Payet, which is not great.
Yeah, a big decline in the last couple of years.
Well, Payet's only got 2 key passes per 90 minutes. Or Payet, rather, is one of 2 players with over 2 key passes per 90 minutes.
Not that much creativity.
So there's not a lot of creativity in the squad. And so I think they're producing something like 3.9 shots on target a game, which would be below average in the Premier League. So that's pretty troubling. But yeah, they did have a quiet summer. I think it was only Benedetto and Rongier who came in from Nantes. So I think that they'd be delighted if they got a draw out of this game. But it is Le Classique, like they'll be really up for it. It's just that I don't think they have the quality to deal with PSG, especially a PSG playing at the level they are right now. And I don't think they've won in this fixture since 2011.
Zach, just briefly, a word on AVB. How fondly do you remember him as a Chelsea fan?
I mean, not great when he was at Chelsea, but I also think he kind of came to Chelsea too soon.
He's so young when he took over.
Exactly, and I think
he was younger than Lampard.
Well, it was, yeah.
Or at least the same
definitely,
age.
he was in his 30s.
And I think that's kind of like, that is never a good sign to join a club where you kind of the players are older than you, and also a club where the players have so much power, especially during that time when it was John Terry, when it was Frank Lampard, Cech, Drogba, all of those guys who have such power in the dressing room and the board as well. And after having, like, they also expect so much. So when they're not winning, and when you're losing in the Champions League, all that kind of thing, they are going to get annoyed. And then when you're also not helping your case by putting them on the bench, they're going to say their thoughts to the right people. And I think that's just been an unfortunate move for him. I actually kind of feel if he never joined Chelsea and he joined, say, when he joined Spurs later on, he probably would have been better off because his reputation wouldn't have been as hurt. And then also he took a year out to go rally driving.
Took a year out and went to Zenit as well, which is not really somewhere to build a reputation amongst the top 5 teams anyway, leagues. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, Marseille have an awful record in this fixture. They haven't won it for 15 games in the league since November 2011, losing 12 and drawing 3 of them. But I do have some team news for you. PSG, obviously, Kehra's out, Draxler's out, Neymar's out. The Brazilian has now missed as many games as he's played for PSG, I saw this week.
Oh my days.
Marseille team news, Tauvin's out, Alvaro Gonzalez is out, and Benedetto is suspended, as Pat mentioned, after picking up 5 yellows. So, I mean, I think I can guess who you guys are going to predict who's going to win, but what's the scoreline going to be, Zach?
5-1 PSG.
5-1.
Yeah.
Fair. Pat?
Yeah, 3-0.
Okay, I'm going to go a bit different. I'm going to go 6-2. 6-2 is going to
be a bit different. I thought you were going to say Marseille will win.
No. Just a heavier loss. But yeah, that's our big match preview. Let's move on to quickfire questions. Right, we're just doing one quickfire question today because we've been rambling on for ages, but this comes back from Tamesh Bahal, regular contributor. You can be a regular contributor too if you respond to my tweet, always sent out on a Wednesday. It doesn't have to be the Tamesh Bahal show. But anyway, he's asked, should any of the underperforming teams buy in January? Pat, who do you suggest?
It kind of depends who's available, but if people have got buyout clauses like apparently Timo Werner does, then 100% a club like Man United should go and get them. Like if I were Man United, I would definitely be looking for a forward and maybe an attacking midfielder. I wouldn't necessarily expect to get them just because of how difficult the market is, but you could look at a Steven Bergwijn out of PSV. You could look at a Werner and see what the lie of the land is, but I don't really know who's available. I would hate to have to do like vital transfer business in January because it's a horrible market.
Yeah, pity Ed Woodward can never get anything done anyway. Zach, you've got a mischievous look on your face. Who are you bringing to the table?
So AC Milan aren't doing too well at the moment, and I've been told that Suso, in fact, has fans have started a petition that they don't actually want him to be playing, so much so that they're going to honk every single day to prove their point. So I'm going to say AC Milan should sign Wilfried Zaha.
Ooh.
Whether he actually takes the move or not is another question, but I honestly think Wilfried Zaha deserves another big money move to a club that is going to compete for Champions League football. Not necessarily the top end, but someone like AC Milan, or if he stays in the Premier League, another team, sure, Arsenal, Chelsea, whoever. That is definitely a move.
This is such a rogue shout.
It is, 100%. But Wilfried Zaha is what will bring AC Milan back to the top.
I like it.
Imagine
a quote in itself.
Imagine him in that AC Milan kit as well.
He'd look great.
He'd look amazing.
Yeah, he deserves a move, definitely, at some stage. Go in January, Wolf to somewhere. Don't know whether you're Arsenal quality, but maybe Everton or someone like that, or AC Milan, as Zach suggests. I'm going to suggest a new goalkeeper for Real Betis. They've got Joel Robles in goal. He's not played well at the start of this year. Their whole defence has been awful. Seems a bit harsh to just blame it on Joel Robles, but they need to get a keeper in. If they can get Nabil Fekir out of Real Betis, then maybe they can get Onana out of Ajax as a stepping stone club. Imagine.
No, absolutely no way.
But
Jog on.
I think he's got bigger ambitions, to be fair. I mean,
He's at a bigger club now.
yeah. Well, it was rogue, we're doing rogue suggestions. Manuel Neuer's also probably needs to retire quite soon, so Onana could probably step in there. Or
That's quite fun.
if Hugo Lloris doesn't recover well from his shoulder injury, get Onana in at Spurs. Upgrade. Love it. Anyway, Wheeler Dealing done for the week. That's all we've got time for on Continental Club. Please let us know what you guys thought of our opinions in the comments below. Suggest what we want us to see cover next time. And Zach, what should the good people go do now?
I want to head over to Squad Goals. We played FIFA blindfolded, and it was interesting.
It worked quite well, apparently.
To say the least.
Anyway, check it out. Pat, anything from you?
Yeah, The Game's Gone Mad went live yesterday, so listen to that if you want to hear me and George Wright and Mike Atkins complain about Arsenal, who are the worst team in the world, and we talk about why PSG could win the Champions League.
Love it. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Bye.